Election of 1800. This is one of the craziest elections in American history. So, what we have, the Republicans. Thomas Jefferson is running for president again. He ran in 1796. He lost to John Adams. He chooses a man named Aaron Burr. That name will be familiar to some of you, to run as his vice president candidate. Meanwhile, the Federalist, John Adams, is running for president again. So we have a repeat of 1796, Adams versus Jefferson. And he's going to choose a man named Charles Pinckney as his vice president. So everything seems fairly normal as we get going. It reads, even though Adams was running for president for the Federalists, behind the scenes, Alexander Hamilton, and remember, Alexander Hamilton is kind of the unofficial leader of the Federalist Party, he's trying to convince the Electoral College not to give their votes to Charles Pinckney, but to John Adams. Sorry, I reversed that. He's trying to convince the Electoral College to give their votes to Charles Pinckney, the vice president candidate, as opposed to John Adams. So that already makes it weird. All these guys are in the same party, but Alexander Hamilton's trying to influence the election. And the reason why, just a little background, Hamilton and a lot of the other Federalists, they didn't like Adams, how Adams was dealing with foreign nations. They didn't like the decisions he was making. So they're kind of angry about that. But it reads on, also, Hamilton thinks he can have more influence on Pinckney than he can Adams. So he's saying if Pinckney gets elected, I can influence him more than Adams. Adams and Hamilton didn't get along all that great, even though they were in the same party. So we have the election. There are the results. If you look closely, we have an issue. And the issue is this. The outcome was a tie. For the Republican Party, representing Virginia, 73 votes for Thomas Jefferson. Aaron Burr, his vice presidential candidate, also received 73 votes. So the logical question is, how can there be a tie between two Republicans? And the answer is, back then, members of the Electoral College could actually vote for two different people. Therefore, when they came time to actually cast the Electoral College votes, they vote for two people. Every single one of them gave one vote to Jefferson and one vote to Burr. So at this point, Adams, Pinckney, and John Jay, they're out. They're not going to become president. It's going to come down to Burr and Jefferson. So what happens if there is a tie? And this is in the Constitution. It goes to the House of Representatives. And each state gets one vote. So what happens? So I'm making this up. Let's say there are 11 people from New York in the House of Representatives. Those 11 folks, they get together and they decide, as a state, we're either voting for Jefferson and Burr, but they don't get 11 votes. They're just voting as one state. So they have to agree upon something. And at the time, there were 16 states total in the United States. So the House of Representatives votes, and after the first vote, it was a tie, 8-8. So what happens now is they vote again. Second time they vote, it was a tie. Then they vote again, and it was a tie. And by the way, this is historically accurate. I counted it several times to make sure. Okay. Now we're on day 6 of voting. There have been 35 different votes, and all have ended in a tie. So I guess the moral of this is these people are very, very stubborn. They are either sticking with Jefferson and Burr. It doesn't seem like any of them are going to change their mind. However, one man's now going to take action to get some of the states to switch their votes from Burr to Thomas Jefferson. This person does this because he thinks Jefferson is less dangerous than Aaron Burr. This is his quote. Jefferson is to be preferred. He is by far not so dangerous a man. Who is this man? It's none other than Alexander Hamilton. Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson's political enemy convinces a few states to switch their votes to Jefferson, and Jefferson becomes the third president of the United States. So this is the ultimate irony right here. Hamilton and Jefferson, who had been going at it for years and years and years, remember, they were both on Washington's cabinet. They didn't like each other back then. But Alexander Hamilton, in his eyes, Aaron Burr, the idea of him being president is more dangerous than Thomas Jefferson. So he he convinces them to switch their votes. Some of you know the rest of the story. A few years later, I think Aaron Burr is now running for Senate. I could be wrong on that. It doesn't really matter. It was a pretty high position, Senate or governor, something along those lines. And Alexander Hamilton is still bad-mouthing Aaron Burr. And Aaron Burr doesn't win whatever he's running for. So what Aaron Burr does is he challenges Alexander Hamilton to a duel, and he shoots and kills him. Welcome to early America. All right, let's wrap this up. Because of the issues with the election, both parties realized changes need to be made. And I'm not blaming the founding fathers. They can't think through every situation, but obviously when it's 73 to 73 and both people are in the same political party, that's an issue that needs to be resolved. So we get the 12th Amendment. 12th Amendment states the Electoral College voters now cast separate ballots for president and vice president. Therefore, when we look at these charts in 1804, we do not see multiple Republicans. We do not see multiple Federalists. What it means is only one person from each party is shown on these charts. For Jefferson and the Republicans, they win the election, but it showed our government was working. And it was working because Jefferson called this whole thing a peaceful revolution because power changed hands peacefully without war or revolution. And what he was saying is power switched from the Federalists for the first three presidencies. They were all Federalists, or number 2 and number 3. And now we have a Republican. So that's a pretty big switch there. But it was done in a peaceful manner. No one got killed. There was not talk of war or revolution. It was handled peacefully.